So today I'm thrilled to feature Julian Smith. He's an extraordinary jazz bassist based in New York City. Julian's originally from Chicago, and he brings a unique blend of tradition and innovation to his music. And he studied at the Berklee College of Music and Rutgers University. He's a regular performer at the city's best venues, and his captivating tone and artistry have definitely made him a rising star in the jazz world. He's done a ton of work with instrumental groups, to backing up singers, and I'm thrilled to talk to him today. So, Julian, good to see you.
Likewise.
So, what if I told you that um, if we're going back all the way more than 10 years ago or something, that I saw a video of you on YouTube at Berkeley playing with that drummer Hamir Atwal? You know what I'm I'm talking
Oh
about?
yeah, absolutely.
And I saw
One
that
of
video,
my
and
one of
I
my
used
heroes.
well, I used to play along to that video back in the day.
Oh wow, right on. Was it? Oh man, I forget which one was it. Was it the Giant Steps? Was it one of the Coltrane tunes? I
It was
forget.
Inner Urge.
Somebody posted up a bunch of those. Oh, Inner Urge. There you go. Yeah, people posted up so many videos without asking us back then.
Yeah, that's where, and then I realized, you were also going to Rutgers, well after that. So, talk to me a little bit about, you went to Berkeley, obviously, and it's great school. We don't have to go into all that, but what prompted the decision to, to go to New York and get your master's and just how the journey sort of got started after Berkeley.
Yeah, well, New York wasn't a part of my plan. I think, Hamir is from San Francisco, and him and I had talked a lot about relocating somewhere together when we graduated. And San Francisco seemed at the time like a great choice, but by the time we had graduated, the tech industry had taken over, and it was like really not a musician affordable place anymore. And at the same time that was happening, Conrad Herwig, who was like the head of the Rutgers department at Mason Gross, he offered me a really good deal that I couldn't pass up. So I just went for it.
So did you know that like who you would be studying you'd be studying with Mike Richmond and everything, or just kind of like didn't
Had
know too
no
much about.
idea. Yeah, I wasn't even planning on going to grad school at that point. I just figured it would be the easiest way to get one foot in New York without having to be completely responsible for myself.
Yeah, you're also kind of still in the student phase, right? Where you're like, oh, I'm not entirely in the real world yet, so I don't have to, the financial things are just kind of in the background.
Right. Yeah. And I was able to get like a teaching assistant spot at Rutgers. So I was able to like make at least some sort of money being like, a pencil pusher.
Did you like going to Rutgers for grad school?
No. But I don't blame Rutgers necessarily at this point. I think I went so prematurely that I didn't go because I wanted to go. You know what I mean? I went because it seemed like the right thing to do. And I think if I had gone when I wanted to go, I would have taken more advantage.
Yeah, I mean, now that you're looking back, maybe you would say I would have done things just kind of differently, like at that part of your life. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I spent that my whole time at Rutgers trying to be in New York and be in the scene and not really be a student. So that's, consequently, I was a pretty half-time student.
I mean, those are the sacrifices you make. Do you remember your first jazz gig in New York? Like, was it with Secret Architecture? Was that the band you play with, right? Or am I
I
mistaken?
did, I played with them for a long time.
Oh, here we
But
go.
I think my first gig might have been, I feel like it was with, I mean, these are musicians from New School from like 20 years ago, Corey King and like Hayden Hawkins. And we played at this place in Greenpoint called Coco 66, which is
Hayden's a
now
drummer,
right next
right?
to Paul. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, Hayden was a great drummer back in the early years. Yeah, that must have
So,
been 2008.
where did you play?
At a place called Coco 66 in Greenpoint. It's just some like hipster bar. It was a total blast though.
I feel like more
I mean, those
places
were
like
like the
that were
first gigs.
around in that during that time, like the 2009, 2012 era, around that
Yeah,
time.
there were a lot more like cooler, funky places where you could actually play original music and more like avant-garde stuff and make some money, which doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
what's changed? There's not enough places, or people just playing different music when they do have jazz, you mean? Like, talk to me about
Yeah,
the.
well, I think it seems like to me, at least in the past 10 years or so, that like bebop and like straight ahead jazz has really taken over most places. Like there's not a lot of venues where you can go, here's some more explorations, you know? And if they are, it's usually in a basement somewhere, not really like a showcaseable venue.
Yeah, this is the thing that, musicians don't realize. I mean, younger musicians who get into this business that, you do want to express yourself, and sometimes you kind of have to go outside the box and find those opportunities like you're talking about.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I came to New York, I came with the idea of like kind of following more in the Paul Motion school of playing and like, Tom Rainey, Tony Malaby, more like really getting into some nitty gritty sounds and textures. And I think by the time I'd been here 5 years, most of those venues had closed. A lot of those musicians left New York to take jobs other places because there wasn't really the infrastructure to support it.
I do think history kind of repeats itself, and this, everything kind of goes in cycles in a sense. It just
Yeah, I
depends
mean,
on what
look,
the
bebop is
artist is
back now.
going. What?
Bebop is back now.
Yeah, I think it's just, I think it's always like, been there, but maybe that you're just saying there's more of an emphasis in the venues on playing, more of that straight ahead stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember a time when you could go, and you still can from time to time, but Smalls, you could go and hear some pretty crazy new music, and now it's pretty straight ahead almost every night.
Yeah, I mean, when I used to play there, I mean, we were definitely playing more free on the form, that's for sure, you know.
Right, exactly.
Um, so I know you're from Chicago originally.
Hmm.
Did you know that you were going to be an East Coaster, like when you left Chicago, that you would be out here for this long, or was there ever like, did you ever miss it, want to go back? Because there is a great scene in
Oh yeah.
Chicago too.
Yeah, I knew I was never going to be a Chicago
You don't like
musician.
Chicago.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I'm from there, but I didn't. I also didn't play music much that young, so I wasn't really part of the Chicago music scene.
Yeah.
Like
Did
when I
you play
started playing,
jazz though in Chicago before you went to Berklee at all?
well, my dad is a jazz musician. He's a great alto player, Mike Smith. And when I graduated high school, I wasn't really doing anything. And he was like, "Well, you want to learn how to play jazz and play in my band?" So I did that for 2 years before I went to Berklee.
So you just worked with your dad jazz 2 years, then went to Berklee.
Yep,
That's awesome.
it was a way to do it for sure. I had played nothing but like punk rock and ska before that.
So you were like just playing tunes with him at places, that sort of thing?
Yeah, he had like a really good long-standing jazz gig at this place, Andy's, in downtown, and
Oh,
he had a
yeah, it's a
quintet.
famous place
Yeah, and I played there every Thursday with him for 2 years.
before Berklee.
Hmm.
So then you go to Berkeley and you've already had the experience, working. Did that make you feel like, oh, like I just want to get back out there and play the way I was with my dad? Or you're like when you were at Berkeley was more like, oh, I just need to be around the musicians and gain that experience, like, and just to hang, what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's funny. I felt like because of my working experience, I had some things that my peers didn't have together, but a lot of my peers had been studying jazz since they were like 10.
Mm.
So they knew a whole lot more than I did about the history, different styles and everything. Because my dad is mostly a hard bopper, straight ahead player. So like he's coming from that school. And I was like, oh, okay, here's Keith Jarrett. Oh, okay, here's Paul Motion. Like here's all this other stuff that's happening. And like or the stuff that was currently happening, like Rosenwinkel and Brad Meldau and all that. I didn't know anything about that stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Feed me the info, guys.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that's so cool. Like, I mean, like you're saying, like you were way ahead of your peers in some ways. Like me, like I went to Berkeley. I never played jazz before Berkeley. I started playing jazz at Berkeley, so I just felt like there was a train that I was trying to just run after. You know what I mean? To like learn it. I didn't realize it was going to be like what it was. Um, but it sounds like your dad knew what it was, and that's why he wanted you to have that experience beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah, it made a lot of sense. I mean, knowing how to play a gig is like kind of half of what they teach you at music school.
Yeah, when you would
But I will say there's so much nitty-gritty information and improvisational styles and stuff that I thought was just over the moon invaluable with some of my teachers at Berklee.
like who? Like your private teachers
Uh,
or other stuff?
like Hal Crook was one of my favorite teachers I ever had my entire life so far. Dave Santoro was
Oh yeah, I
amazing.
had a
Showed
class with him.
so much stuff. Yeah, I mean these guys and these guys would also get involved more on an interpersonal level too than just even like a teacher-student relationship. It felt more like mentors and friends by the time it was done.
Are you teaching now at all?
No, no, I haven't taught probably since I was in my late 20s.
Just didn't want to keep doing it?
You know, I now I really do. But it's a lot of work to like build up a teaching studio. But like I didn't want to teach for a long time. I just wanted to play. And all my experience teaching people was like doing the same lesson over and over again. Nobody wanted to practice. Trying to explain fundamental stuff, they'd be like, "Oh, it's so boring." I was like, "Man, but if you learn it, then you can do all this other stuff."
Yeah, I treat teaching like just to like the same. Like I'm gonna like I play gigs like and I want it to be as fun as possible for myself and for the those involved. So like I do whatever I could do to make that necessary in the lesson, even if the student doesn't practice at all, you know?
Hmm.
Like how can I make this fun?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I guess my whole thing with teaching music is it's not always gonna be fun, and like that has to be a part of the element in music. Is it like, to grow isn't always fun, just like in life.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like a lot of people get discouraged from that and they're like, well, it's supposed to be fun. I'm like, okay, I mean, is your job always fun? No. Like, this is a job too.
Yeah. Are there times like now when you're doing gigs where because you've always struck me as a really like, joyful player. You're, you're really there's no question that you've got there's like a soul in the spirit there when you play. Um, does it feel like work it a lot of times these days, or is it still that fun? Like now that we're going like we're fast forwarding into, you're in, I think we're around the same age. What are you around like
Yeah.
how old are you again? You're
41.
40.
Yeah,
Okay.
41.
Yeah, I'm a couple of years younger, but yeah, I mean, now that you're a little older, and is it still you still get that fun part?
Well, it's funny you asked that. I feel like it's still as much fun or even more fun than it ever has been, but also I'm in control much more of my situation now than I used to be. Like I spent 15 years being purely a sideman. And that was great. But now that I'm in charge of like a lot of my own stuff now, playing with people that I only want to play with, it's like always a blast.
Always.
Always.
Will you still take gigs though as a sideman if it's
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Although I'm definitely a lot choosier with who I work for, especially horn players.
why the
I
horn
feel like
players?
they have I mean, you've been a rhythm section person in the area forever. I feel like they sometimes treat us like tools that they can pick up and put away whenever they want.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't really play with horn players, so I'm the horn
Yeah,
player
I
in my
and
head.
I've worked with enough to know that like, oh yeah, they have a tendency to feel like they're taking advantage of us.
You think so? Yeah, as rhythm section. Well, you know
Sometimes,
what?
yeah.
Yeah, can you explain that to me? Like, I mean if that's okay.
Well, for instance, like a lot of my first 5 to 10 years here would be rehearsing so much intricate music with a horn player, and you go through it, play crappy gigs with them, and then as soon as there's a good gig and a nice recording session, they hire somebody famous.
Oh, fuck that.
Oh, that happens a lot. That was a good chunk of the 2000s business, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm from Jersey originally, so I would never let that shit happen.
I
You want to hear something? I'll
hear
tell you.
you.
You'll appreciate this. No, like I got like a gig at a certain place. I'm not gonna name the venue. Um, but they were okay with it. They were okay with me playing there, but they wanted me to bring in a totally different band. And they named the musician specifically, and I refused.
I respect that. I respect that a lot. Honestly, it's
And the
one of the
money
things
was
that,
there to do it. The money was there to do it. I could have hired these players, but I'm like, I'm not doing that. That's wrong.
yeah, it's
These
so
people have been playing
frustrating
with me
too.
for what?
It's so frustrating that they do that because ultimately, at the end of the day, who cares?
Yeah.
Like who really cares? You really think that hiring those people is going to make that much more of a difference at like your club?
No, they'll be no, no, it really won't make a difference.
No, it really won't. So it's like enforcing all this stuff for what? I don't get it.
Well, it's this
And
is
if you never let people come up, they never come up. That's really what it comes down to. If you're keeping people down, what's the point of that?
yeah, I mean, that's I mean, there is like this sort of like you know, secret society of I don't want to say secrets, but I know what you're talking about. Like you have to there's like this like mindset that like this is what you have to do, like bring in certain people to certain places and do this and do that, but it's just like the blind leading the blind at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, in a lot of ways, the older, more established player isn't going to have that gig unless they call them. So it's like you're just perpetuating this cycle of it's like a Ponzi scheme almost.
Yeah. And I've seen like the best of the best, like, and I'm sure you have too, like in rooms with no one there.
Oh yeah. I mean, one of the last shows I saw at Cornelia Street was Ben Monder and his trio, exceptional music. And I didn't even know they were playing. I just stumbled down there by accident and I was
So
the only
funny.
person there. Yeah, I just went to have a drink. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, great, you guys are playing." To no one.
I
No.
saw them playing like on in the Lower East Side, Ben Monder and some band, like at some random bar. Like, and I just walked by. I'm like, oh, this is free. I'm going
Yeah, right?
in.
You never know.
No, but I'm definitely a believer in like, I know what you're saying, and that is one of the frustrating things, but all we can do is like be the change, I suppose.
I mean, I think things have been changing for the better, which is good. But
Good.
that was definitely the model that I saw a lot of when I was in my like young 20s.
The like
And
hiring
it can be
certain people.
disheartening, when everyone's working so hard and then it's like, "Oh, well, I guess what was the point of working hard with you if we're not going together?"
Yeah. It sounds to me like you know, those people who do those things, when like did their career advance to a certain place? Like,
Oh, no,
no.
no. Half of them
Oh,
quit.
half them quit. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. When you get to be, like our age in this, it's amazing how many people quit.
Oh yeah, I know. So no, I mean, the people, half the people I went with to NYU are gone, man. They don't play.
Yeah, it's a lot more than I thought.
Yeah.
Although I guess it makes sense, there's nothing, but it's a tough economy these days. And music is definitely like not the easiest way to make a
Oh no,
living.
it's not. I mean, you got to have other things you're doing, I don't have to, it's you got to do a bunch of stuff. Have you had to like, I know you said that, you were teaching and that I'm sure that brought in some. Have you had to do like any type of GB like wedding type stuff to, or to like, supplement income like those type of gigs? Because I've certainly had to do my fair share of those things.
Oh yeah, I worked in a singers group for like 7 or 8 years, and we did everything you could possibly think of. Um, Fortunately, it wasn't like top 40s stuff. It was like only like early like traditional jazz, which at least I can sink my teeth into a little bit more than like pop dance stuff, which is really not my thing. But yeah, I mean, we did tons of that for 8 years. I mean, so many weddings. I'm actually really lucky. I don't have to do any of that stuff now, but so many weddings. Wow, so many weddings.
Yeah,
And
weddings,
man,
man.
they get so depressing when you get older and you're like, oh yeah, the bride and groom are 10 years younger than me. I got to get out of
Yeah.
this.
I did see some when I went to a I think there needs to be that pass the torch thing when it comes to certain gigs.
Hmm.
Like when I used to work on cruise ships, there was this one guy, he was probably about 60. He was a musician. This guy did not have a house. Like he would just get off the boat and go stay in a hotel, spend all his money, then go back on the boat. Like there has to be
I mean,
like,
that's a
I
way.
think what?
I said that's a way to do it, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean that's like a really to me that doesn't seem logical.
No, not a lot of growth, not a lot of mobility.
But when I went to a wedding recently, like there was a killing band, there were some younger players and stuff, and I'm like, all right, this is like I like seeing the younger people doing those type of gigs.
Yeah. I mean, it's always better than a DJ.
True. Yeah, yeah. So kind of talk to me a little bit about, now that the day to day in your life as a professional bass player, like what are you looking forward to this year specifically musically? Because the year's just started also.
Yeah. Well, this year, I'm doing a bunch of recordings, which I haven't done for a while because, well, for obvious reasons, there's really not much any monetization in making recordings. But I'm a part of a couple projects that, one way or the other, I would like to just make one to document it because I feel that good about it. Which doesn't always happen. But I've been working a lot with these two younger guys. One of them from Arizona, and one of them's a young dude from Massachusetts who also went to Berklee. Willis Edmondson and John Meyer. We've been working on a
Will, did you
project
say
named Homie.
Willis? Willis?
Yeah, you
Oh,
know
I play
Willis?
with him. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. I
Drummer.
love this guy.
Drummer.
Hmm. Yeah.
He's the
So
man.
we've been doing a project all Thelonious Monk, really trying to like make the guitar trio sound like Monk,
Yeah,
and it's been a lot of fun.
that's
So I'm
awesome.
excited about that. Doing a couple of things in Europe, um, releasing a record with Rodrigo Reccabaron, Michael Valiano, doing some, more like standards, but like with our taste on them. Yeah. Um, my day to day though is like kind of hilarious.
How
I
so?
get up, I get up pretty early. I'm an 8 a.m. kind of wake up guy. Hang out with my dog for a little while, do about 2 hours worth of housework, and then I just play along with recordings for 2 to 3 hours, take a nap, and then go to whatever gig I have.
I love it.
That's pretty much every day.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you're like, yeah, I got to take care of my house for 2 hours. You know what I mean? Because yeah, that's
Yeah,
another
usually
story.
I just bump the stereo, and then whatever inspired me the most while I was cleaning is what I'll practice to later.
No, Julian, this has been great. It's so great to catch up with you, and and I'm really happy to hear that you're doing that project with Willis because he's great. He
Oh
subbed on a
man,
gig I
really?
did with him, and he was great to work with. So
Yeah,
uh,
the duration has a good attitude.
great attitude, right?
They have a really good attitude. Yeah, they're
Where
really positive. They're happy to be there. In fact, I feel like they're even happier than my generation was.
Yeah, you got to be happy to be there. I mean, we're choosing to be there, aren't
Definitely.
we?
Yeah,
Other-
we are.
Where can everybody find your Instagram, social media and stuff if you want to plug that or, we can find
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I'm at Julian Smith Music on Instagram, but I don't know how much longer I'm going to be using these platforms. The only problem is there's not other good ones to fall back on. But yeah, these platforms are not serving us, I don't think.
No, they're not. I mean, that's another conversation.
Yeah, that's a lot of other conversations.
No, all right, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely, my pleasure. Hopefully, we'll end up on a gig together soon.
Let's do it.